Hello, all, and welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk podcast. As always, you can find the show on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. Today, we'll be breaking down and predicting the AFC South teams, all four of them: the Colts, Titans, Jaguars, and the Texans. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We are trying to get to 100 subs for the channel, so subscribe and share with a friend. It would be really helpful to the channel. And let's lay down some ground rules as we always do. I'm trying to keep this 15 minutes or less. And that means that I don't have time to explain myself for every single win or loss that I put down or every single grade that I put down. But I would be more than happy to explain myself in the comments if you have a discrepancy with one of my grades. And if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, leave a comment down below. Always appreciated. Now let's get right into the first team here. The first team we'll be focusing on here is the Houston Texans. Former player for the Texans, now their new head coach, DeMeco Ryans, is more of a defensive head coach, more to the likes of Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick to an extent. And I think in the long run, he will be a solid NFL head coach. Now, I think that his staff right now is a little bit weak and inexperienced. So I think the coaching staff is going to have a lot of growing pains along the way through the season. The pass catchers are not great by any means, but they have guys with talent like John Metchie III coming in from college. He was hurt a fair amount of time there, but he is a really good route runner and should be a solid addition to their wide receiver room if he stays healthy. Player that they got in the, I think it was third round of the draft by the name of Tank Dell has looked really good in the preseason. I know a lot of people that are really high on him, and he has the body to do it. He's big, tall, and he runs really well. Got to work on his route running a little bit, but makes a ton of great contested catches, at least so far this preseason. And they made a solid upgrade at tight end with the addition of Dalton Schultz coming over from the Dallas Cowboys. Running back Dameon Pierce showed a bit of promise last year as the workhorse back. Not a whole ton of explosiveness to his game, but enough to get by as the starting running back. And a decent offensive line will really help. And I think that it's a little bit underrated, but they have two pretty darn good tackles in Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard. The interior is a little messy, especially with the injury of Green. And I think, but overall, yeah, I think it will help out Dameon Pierce a bit to get that push there, at least from the tackles, if not from anywhere else. The defense is not a great group by any means. Will Anderson, number 3 overall pick, plays on the D-line. I think, in college, you dominate everyone if you are a good player. But coming into the NFL, when he is the only edge on Houston's roster that basically is worth a darn, I think that it will be really hard for him to adjust to the NFL and the talent level of the tackles in the NFL. I think he'll be good with time. I just don't think that time will be the first half of this. I think it'll take the first half of the season for him to set his footing. Linebackers in secondary are bottom tier NFL. Going to the schedule for the Houston Texans, start off week 1 at the Ravens. Ravens rushing attack will be too much to handle for the Texans. This is a loss. Versus the Colts, you get back at right with a win here. At the Jaguars, this will be a loss. At home versus the Steelers, I think you lose this game as well. At the Falcons, this is a loss. And versus the Saints, that's a loss as well. Going into a week 7 bye, 1-5. Come out of the bye, go to Carolina, play the Panthers. I think you win this game. Versus the Bucs, I think you lose this game. at the Bengals. Bengals are too good of a team. That's a loss. Versus the Cardinals in Week 11, I think this will be a win for the Texans. Right about now, guys like Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud are starting to get their footing. Versus the Jaguars, this is going to be a loss. Versus the Broncos, this could be a loss, but I could see them winning this game. I would not be surprised if they beat the Broncos here. At the Jets, I think this will be a loss. At the Titans, this will be a loss. Versus the Browns, again, another game that could be sneaky. I think that they could possibly pull out, but this will be a loss. Versus the Titans, Week 17, I think you win this game. At the Colts in Week 18, I think you lose this game. Game that could flip-flop. Either way, I have them losing this game, going 4-13. Next team we have is the Indianapolis Colts. I have their overall roster at B-. And the big issue with this roster is that star, stud, elite, whatever you want to say, running back Jonathan Taylor will not play for at least the first 4 games of the season, and that could extend to 6 or 7 games depending on his availability and his injury progression. He basically got put on the PUP list, and that is a list of players that have been injured, not in any football facility, on any practice field. It was a non-football injury, and that is called the PUP list. It will be very tough to break in rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson without Jonathan Taylor. You just need stars. Having stars around young rookie quarterbacks is, in my opinion, very crucial to that rookie quarterback succeeding. And, I mean, you look at a case like Joe Burrow, you put a star right on his team in Jamar Chase, and he, aside from the injury, he had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at his disposal year 2. Year 1 was kind of ruined by the injury. And he went out and went to AFC Championships, Super Bowls right off the gate. And I think if you want to compete, it is essential to get your young QB a lot of studs everywhere on the field. And Jonathan Taylor could have only helped in the development of Anthony Richardson. The linebackers, led by Shaq, Lenerd, will be solid, but the secondary is the biggest issue on this whole team. They lost a lot of talent, and I really think that they're going to struggle in the back end. They just don't have the players necessary to really lock down any team that has any wide receiver depth. And to be honest with you, the best free agent acquisition was kicker Matt Gay coming in from the Los Angeles Rams. He is a stud at the kicker position. He's very, very good at kicking field goals, extra points. He does it all. He's really good. Let's move on to the schedule. Starting off Week 1 at home versus Jacksonville, I think you lose this game. At Houston, I think you lose this game without Jonathan Taylor. At Baltimore, I think you lose this game as well. Week 4, you're still not going to have JT, Jonathan Taylor yet, but it's at home versus the Rams. Terrible roster. I think you win this game as well. You're going to get 2 in a row here versus Tennessee. I think you beat the Titans. At Jacksonville the next week, I think you lose this game. Versus Cleveland, I think you lose this game as well. Versus New Orleans, I think you lose here. At Carolina, a game that you could win, but I think you lose here. Versus the New England Patriots in Germany in Week 10, I think you lose this game, but it's a game that is pretty winnable for the Colts. Going into the bye week 2 and 8, coming out of the bye week, you get that extra week of practice. I think you pick up a dub versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the Tennessee Titans, the Titans get their revenge. The Colts will drop this game. At Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh, 2 AFC North teams, I think you drop both of these. At Atlanta, I think you lose. Versus Las Vegas, I think you lose. And you will end the season at home versus Houston, Week 18. I think you win this game to go 4-13. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans, I have their overall roster at a B-. The acquisition of DeAndre Hopkins is huge for the development of Will Levis if he comes into the game. Right now it's Ryan Tannehill, but I got a sneaky feeling that Will Levis is going to come into this game to their games at some point. Derrick Henry is still an elite running back. Their offense should be theoretically set and should play decently well. all things considered, I hope. The defensive line is pretty darn good with players such as Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry III coming off the edges. I think they're both studs. And honestly, their D-line is really underrated. I don't see too many people giving them props. I'm going to give them their props right here. I think that their D-line is pretty big. Sadly, though, the Titans linebackers are extremely weak, no depth, and teams should readily exploit this basic weakness for the Titans. And then the secondary isn't that much better, but they got some depth there with some players that can play. Moving on to the Titans schedule. You open up week 1 at the Saints. I think you win this game. Versus the Chargers, I think you take your first 2 games in a row. At the Browns versus the Bengals, though, I think you lose these 2. At the Colts, I think you lose this game as well. And then the Ravens in London, I think you lose this game going into your bye week 2 and 4. Coming out of the bye week, you play the Falcons. I think this is a winnable game, but I think you lose. At the Steelers, Thursday Night Football, I think you lose this game. At the Buccaneers, week 10, I think you win this game. At the Jaguars, I think you lose this game as well. You're going to rip off 2 wins here versus the Panthers and versus the Colts. At the Dolphins, Monday night, I think you lose this game. Versus the Texans, I think you win here. Versus the Seahawks, I think you lose. At the Texans, I think you're going to lose here. Versus the Jaguars, you win. Your last game going 7-10 on the season. Last team that we have is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have their overall roster at a B. Doug Peterson is a very underrated head coach, and in my opinion, he is truly a top 10 head coach. He manages Trevor Lawrence really well. The running back room will be a by the committee, which means really whoever's hot is hot, and they will just go. And overall, the room is weak, but it has enough depth to play well. They have a lot of depth, and I think that they can use fresh legs for their advantage. The D-line will all hinge on the play of edge rusher Josh Allen. Last year, he had a subpar year. The year before his rookie year, he had a very good year. And I think that he will play a really big factor for their defensive line. The D as a whole is on the weaker side, which is why I have their overall lower than some people may expect. But I think the offense is good enough. I didn't even touch on the wide receivers, guys like Christian Kirk. I think they're going to be very good. But I still think that this team will steamroll a lot of teams in the league. I think that Trevor Lawrence is a top 7 QB at the very least. And I think that they will do a lot of great things this year. Let's go to the Jaguars' schedule. Week 1, you play at the Colts. I think you win this game. Versus the Chiefs, this is going to be a very tough game. It'll be at home, though, but I still think you lose this game. Versus the Texans, versus the Falcons, both of these will be wins. At the Bills, though, I think this will be a loss. Versus the Colts, this will be a win. At the Saints, Thursday night, I think you win this game. At the Steelers, tough place to play, much like New Orleans. I think you win this game, though, going into the bye week. With only 2 losses coming out of the bye week. You play versus the 49ers. I think this is a loss. Versus the Titans is a win. At the Texans, this is a win. Versus the Bengals on Monday night, I think that you win this game. You got a lot of tough teams on the schedule. I think you got to pull at least one out, right? At the Browns, I think you lose this game. Versus the Ravens on Sunday night, I think you lose this game as well. At the Bucks, you win this game. Versus the Panthers, you win this game as well. At the Titans to finish off the season, you're going to lose, but you're still winning the division 11-6 final record. So there you have it, folks. The AFC South coming in at 4th place. The Texans 4-13, C+ roster. The Colts 4-13, but a B- roster will get them 3rd. 2nd place, the Titans 7-10, B- roster. And taking the division crown, the Jaguars 11-6 with a B roster. I want to thank you guys so much for sticking all the way through. This series has been incredibly fun to make, and football is right around the corner. Please subscribe. We'll be doing week-by-week analysis. Hopefully, haven't really got a routine ironed out yet, but it will be coming out, and that will be during the season. Remember, we're trying to get to 100 subscribers, be one of the first 100. Hopefully, there will be a lot more after that. Share with a friend, and I will see you guys on the flip side.